GB4 is back, this time from Donington Park Grand Prix circuits for rounds 7, 8 and 9 of the championship in 2024. Hello and welcome to Donington Park. We are here at a very different weather conditions to where we left off at Silverstone Grand Prix circuit just a few weeks ago. We're looking forward to an excellent weekend of racing coming up. I'm hoping that we can have a good weekend of racing as we did for the first couple of rounds at Silverstone Grand Prix, where unfortunately, of course, for those of you who did join us for that, it was a little bit of inclement weather. Today, not an issue though, sunny skies, the weather is ambient, although the wind is certainly picking up, and that will be something for the drivers to contend with. But before we run you up towards the first race of the weekend, let's have a look at some of the highlights from rounds 4 and 5, unfortunately not round 6, at Silverstone.
Highlights from the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Round 4 of the season will get underway, and Brandon McCacken would be stalling throughout the third and fourth row of the grid. Would eventually get going, but would rejoin the fight towards the rear of the train and picking his way past the two Graham Brunton racing cars, also going side by side through that first bit. And unfortunately for Harry Burgoyne Jr., he'd go straight on, going through Maggots, Beckers and Chapel. Was able to rejoin the race without any major dramas, with a big slide from Alicia Palmovsky behind. Plenty of battling as they were working their way up the field, including this from Palmovsky. Big send down the inside going into Stowe, was able to hook it up to the apex and then was able to make a move on Leon Wilson. Excellent stuff from Palmovsky, working her way through the order, almost being joined there by the Kevin Mills racing car. Speaking of those, it was McCacken firing his way up the order straight around the outside of Wilson with an excellent move going into Brooklands, the inside of Luttio, and was able to work his way past. The battle for the race lead though, Finn Harrison had checked out a little bit, but he was caught by Lenus Granfors, who'd work his way through going into Maggots, Beckers and Chapel, leaving the two elites to squabble over second position as he'd check out into the distance. However, Palmovsky was trying to fight with a team that would eventually get through on Finn Harrison, and then Marcus Luttio was able to sneak his way through into the podium positions. A fantastic drive from the rear of the field for our privateer entry of the Luttio.com car of Marcus Luttio. Out through the final corner though for Lenus Granfors, it was a second consecutive victory ahead of Alicia Palmovsky and Marcus Luttio. On to the second race of the weekend and round 5 of the championship. Palmovsky stalling from the second row of the grid, was able to get moving, but again would have to work her way all the way through the order. Very tall one for her, as it was Finn Harrison leading from pole position down into that first corner, but already starting to feel the pressure of Lenus Granfors. Unfortunately, Leon Wilson not quite having the pace despite starting on the front row of the grid, was starting to feel the pressure of the Kevin Mills racing cars, the first of those being Harry Burgoyne Jr. Side by side for the race lead, a little bit of contact between the top two, but excellent racing between them. Finn Harrison would go out wide, and Lenus Granfors would sneak his way through in almost the same spot as the previous day. Meanwhile, Alicia Palmovsky was working her way through the order from the back of the field, up well inside the top 10. Contact between the top two would send McCacken round, unfortunately, as he'd be able to get back going again, but just a touch between himself and Finn Harrison. This contact late on in the race as Chloe Grant was sent over the grass going into Maggots, Beckers and Chapel with that contact between herself and Alicia Palmovsky. For the third consecutive race though, it is Lenus Granfors taking the victory with Finn Harrison and Leon Wilson behind.
A good weekend of racing, tricky weekend of racing with the changeable conditions. I'm joined by Max Marzorati once again. Max, thank you very much for joining us. It's good to have you alongside me this weekend, giving us the drivers and coaches insight. Max, Silverstone always produces good racing. We saw it once again, but the tricky conditions, it's a lot for the drivers to think about.
Yeah, it was extremely exciting. Race 1, I think everybody in the top 6 variated that position constantly throughout the race. We had a great drive through from Luttio, who I was working at the time, who came through to the podium. Granfors obviously drove a stunning race to win that. Harrison as well, the battle between him, I think virtually everyone was really good, and it was really clean racing, which is what we love to see in GB4. Unfortunately, we didn't get the last race due to the weather. Safety comes first, but we still got another great cracking race as the circuit was drying up. And it threw everything into the air again. Another great victory for Granfors as we now roll on to here at Donington.
Absolutely, it's always good to have such good racing. Silverstone always produces good racing in the GB4 Championship, but you mentioned Lenus Granfors. Lenus, of course, won both of the races at Silverstone in somewhat dominant fashion, really had good pace in that Fortec Motorsports car. Lenus is proving to be a force to be reckoned with, and I think if he carries on with the pace like that, it's going to be difficult for anyone to beat him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's just come here and he's taken pole position again, I think, for both races. So that's a hard thing to take, but they're not far behind him. We're only talking a couple tenths here between him and the cars behind. So I think definitely there's potential for a lot of racing to happen there. It's a longish run to turn 1 here, and the pole actually starts on the inside. So you're already in that half defensive position. So if you don't get a great start, you're defending into one, then you have a long run down to the old hairpin. So it opens up a lot of opportunities through the lap here.
Yeah, Lenus Granfors here at Donington Park took pole position, will be starting from first place in this first race of the weekend. Also has pole position for race number 2 or round number 8 tomorrow morning as well. We've got some familiar faces, but also some returning drivers, including Liam McNeely, who we caught up with earlier on today. Liam McNeely, good to have you back in the championship. Of course, you've moved on, but you're back this weekend. Tell us about what you've been doing since moving on from GB4 last year, and why are you back?
Yeah, well, moved over to America for this year from GB4 last year, and it's going really well. I had a few test days and 2 rounds so far, so yeah, it's going well. Sitting third in the championship, so yeah, going pretty well over there.
And it must have been good to sort of move on from the GB4 Championship, have some success in another championship, so clearly that prepared you well. But also, you're back this weekend to the same team, Fox Motorsport, so it must be like you're back at home.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think when I'm not racing over in America, it's good to, just keep my eye on in GB4, and it's really competitive this year. So it took a bit of getting used to, but yeah, nothing. We struggled with, and we got on top of it for qualifying, which is good.
How are you finding the racing out in America? Of course, different set of drivers, slightly different regulations, the cars are slightly different tyres. How has it been getting used to things over there?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot different. For example, like rolling starts. It's got radio as well. It's just stuff getting used to. But I think the team's really good over there, and Jay was one of them that moved over when he was in his younger career to America, so he's done it before. So it's good for him to help me out a little bit, and going well. Adapting well, and going strong.
Well, Liam, it's great to have you back in the championship. Back for just one weekend at the moment, I believe, just one weekend. So, what's the hopes this weekend? Of course, back with the same team. You've got 2 teammates who are hoping to sort of emulate what you did with the successful season last year. I think it was 3rd in the championship, wasn't it? So, what's the aim for this weekend?
Just improving and helping out the team, and hopefully get Fox up the front. Hopefully.
Brilliant. Well, Liam, good to have you back in the championship. We'll see how you got on this weekend.
Thank you.
Really is good to have a returning driver come back into the championship in the form of Liam McNeely. Came 3rd in the championship last season, a very good driver in what was Fox Motorsport's first season in the championship last year. They've come back again this year. He's joining just for the moment for 1 round, because he's actually been, as you just heard, been racing out in America in the USF Juniors, having some success in that, winning race. I think he currently sits 3rd in that championship. He'll be hoping to make strides in that and potentially move forward to maybe even the likes of IndyCar, Indy Lights, or who knows, he might make his way back over here to Europe. But Max, he's come back to get some seat time, because of course seat time for all the drivers is important, but also to help out his family team, Fox Motorsports, with Brandon Templeton and Megan Bruce. Having a second-year experienced driver who is a benchmark, and 3rd in the championship last year, how much of a benefit will that be to his teammates?
It's massive. We had 2 race weekends at Donington last year, so obviously they have the data with that and the onboards, but to get actual live when we were at the circuit together, plus there is, tyres are slightly different this year to what they were last year, so it's more relevant data to what Megan Bruce has and what Templeton has. So this will just give them that little bit more. They can see as well how Liam interacts with the team, what he's doing, and then he can then lead that team forward on, okay, this is what I think we can go and set up, and that will hopefully bring the other 2 up as well, as they can see his data, and it's session to session.
Well, we know the GB4 Championship is a learning championship. It's a lot of the drivers' first foray into car racing, or at the very least first foray into single-seater slicks and wings. Brandon Templeton actually didn't have the best qualifying by his own standards, and Megan Bruce is still improving as the season goes on. So I'm sure we'll see them come up through the field as the weekend goes on with that benchmark of Liam McNeely. But someone who made some great strides through the field last time out at Silverstone was Leon Wilson for the Arden team. Well, let's hear from him. Down here at the Arden garage with Leon Wilson. Leon, back again for GB4, this time at Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. But let's look back to Silverstone. I think you definitely made a big step forward. You showed some really, really good pace. You're clearly getting more and more confident in the car with every session.
Yeah, a lot more testing in the car, especially after Silverstone. We had another day at Sneston, which went really well. We were P1 birthdays, which was really helpful. And then the podiums just pushed me a lot harder to carry on.
The pace also seemed really strong in the wet, which potentially might help out this weekend. Is that something you just feel more confident in? Is the car suited to it? Talk to us about that.
I think we'll keep the setup the same for the wet. It's just we've done way more in the wet in testing, so we've done probably about more than half our days in the wet, which really helps, and just feel really comfortable there.
You've missed out, I heard, on a little bit of testing for this weekend because you've had some other things that are pretty important you've had to attend to.
Yeah, I had my GCSE English exam on the Thursday, and then we had a problem with the car on the Friday as well, which didn't help. So we've only had one day of testing here.
But of course, we're now into the race weekend. 3 races to hopefully have a good one. What would you like to get out of this weekend at Donington Park Grand Prix circuit?
Just as many points as we can get, really. Maybe close to a podium. Just we've got to push through this race and make a lot of overtakes to get there.
Leon, thanks very much for chatting to us. Hope it goes well for you.
Thank you.
That was Leon Wilson there from the Arden team. Leon is currently the only driver in that team, so he's been doing well to make the strides he has. We've chatted about it before, but Max, when you've got teammates, we kind of spoke about it a moment ago with Fox Motorsport and Neil McNeely. It's a lot more helpful for the drivers in terms of their development. But Leon's doing a great job considering he's on his own, right?
Yeah, he really is, and I think I spoke about, he missed Thursday because he had to take an exam. Some on Friday, so that makes it really tough. Because you're catching up, then you're constantly on the catch up straight away from that. So to then go into qualifying, you're not going to have that much under you. He hasn't even got his own data to compare to because he wasn't here. So I think he did well in that qualifying session. You've got to manage that expectation and then go, okay, I'm here to learn. What have I learned and picked up from what I've done? And then I can push that forward into the race now. Really
interesting, actually, in that interview that you just watched, he touched on the fact that he's been doing really well in the wet, especially at Silverstone. He had great pace. But they don't really change the car much, Max. Is that fairly standard for these GB4 cars in the wet?
You wouldn't do much, but it's still, typical things that you do with race cars is you make them softer. You'd have things like a rear roll bar, you remove it, to make it more compliant, to give yourself better traction. And then as the circuit gets hotter and grippier up, you normally run it more and more stiff.
Yeah.
But we're talking very slight changes, with race cars. Like a mil difference is like a huge setup change in a single-seater car.
Yeah, they're so sensitive, aren't they?
Yeah.
And the ride height changes and all the different aerodynamic changes you can make on these cars. Of course, they're all the same Tatus chassis. They're all the same engines, same tyres. But there are adjustments that you can make to the cars, or the teams will make alongside the drivers. Aerodynamics, ride heights, tow, caster camber, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Springs. But Liam Wilson was very quick in the wet conditions, but someone that was very quick in both wet and dry conditions was the driver that you worked alongside with, Max. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But Marcus Luttio had a great podium last time out at Silverstone, his first in the GB4 Championship. We also caught up with him earlier on. Take a look at that. Marcus, you're back again, of course, GB4. But as you can see in the background of this shot, Hill Speed are here helping out once again. Of course, they helped you out at Silverstone last time out, and you had a very strong weekend, especially that race where you came from pretty much the back of the grid all the way up to the podium. Just talk to us about how that felt and how much confidence that has given you going into this weekend at Donington.
Yeah, no, it's really helped. The speed obviously is now very good, being quick throughout testing, and that one P3 has really helped. Confidence was boosted, and yeah, it's been amazing so far, and hopefully we can get more good results this week. But yeah, we'll just see what it has to hold.
That extra jump in pace you've had, has it been from the car, or has it been from yourself, or a bit of everything? Have Hill Speed, what have they been working on with you guys?
Well, I think it's just a bit of both, really, because before Silverstone, I hadn't done a single day in the car at Alton, and now doing some more days. We still haven't done a test day in GB4, other than the race meetings, but yeah, every time I get in it, I get better and better. So yeah, I think that's what really helps. So yeah.
And this weekend, I assume the goal is more podiums?
Yeah, hopefully some wins as well. That would always be nice, but yeah, we'll just see what it has to hold.
Brilliant. And of course, we touched on Hill Speed. You can see in the back of shot, actually, I don't know if we can see it over your shoulder, but there is a Hill Speed GB3 car, but you're not a complete stranger to that, are you?
No. Yeah, we did a test round here 2 weeks ago. Hopefully we can move up soon, but yeah, we'll see what it has to hold.
What was it like to drive the GB3 car? Of course, normally on the GB3 and 4 packages, they race on the same weekend. This weekend at Donington, just GB4, then we've got GB3 next time out at Spa. And, what are the differences between the cars, and did you enjoy the extra speed that it had?
Yeah, no, it was mental. I mean, first 2 sessions, I was kind of getting used to it. Wasn't really pushing because, yeah, it was just something completely different. But by the end of the day, we weren't too slow, and yeah, literally you turn in and it just grips around, goes where you want it, and it's brilliant.
You did allude to the fact that you want to hopefully get out in the GB3 potentially soon. Is there any more you can tell us about that?
We'll just wait and see, I guess. Yeah.
We'll wait and see indeed. Anyway, we're looking forward to hopefully some more strong results from you, Marcus, and hopefully it all goes well for you.
Thank you.
Marcus Luttio there for the Luttio.com, helped by Hill Speed. Marcus, it was a great success at Silverstone last time out. Max, partly helped by yourself. We won't lean on that too much because, of course, you've helped a lot of drivers in this championship, but he really, really impressed. Second place in race 2 at Silverstone in what were tricky conditions, making a big step forward. He's an impressive driver, isn't he?
Yeah, it really is. It's a huge thing, and that was the first time at Silverstone as well. That's a long circuit. It's easy to shed time there throughout the lap due to its nature with its long sweeping corners. It's physical. It is difficult, and people can always say, "Oh, there's lots of runoff there," but you can't use the runoff. You get penalised for that. So to still keep it in the limits and be that fast, there's some very, very brave corners like Abbey, which is flat out in the drive, but it's not an easy flat out. So he drove extremely well there. His race car really showed, and that's something that you gain from karting coming into this. And I thought again it showed how great the GB4 car is at racing.
Yeah, and we were chatting off camera actually earlier on today, Max, and you're helping out with and coaching in the Graham Brunton Racing GBR team this weekend, and you were actually watching down at the last corner. Was it yesterday or the day before? Saying Marcus was probably the benchmark in that last corner, getting the car positioned well for the corner and getting a good exit, and that showed in qualifying. He's been right up there. I think he's starting P2, isn't he, in race 2? Yes, he is starting P2 in race 2. So good qualifying for him. We'll see him go from the front row tomorrow. But also Hill Speed back once again this weekend, helping out Marcus, and he's actually, as we heard from the interview just then, been testing the GB3 car. I think he enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll see him out in that. But Max, you've driven the old version of GB3 car, the GB4. Would that have thrown him off going into this weekend, or is it just any experience is good experience?
You could say depending on the driver, but clearly not. by what he's done in qualifying, must have not. I think he's highly adaptable, which we've seen coming from karting to this. So I think whatever he jumps into, he's going to be up there. It's just that fine tuning to find that last couple tenths.
Yep, we've spoken a lot about Silverstone now, but let's turn our attention to this weekend here at Donington Park. We're on the countdown to the race now. Donington Park, one of the best circuits on the calendar, no doubt. Really good flow to it, overtaking opportunities into the Melbourne Loop and the final sector. We're looking behind us. Max, just give us put us in the cockpit. What does it feel like to drive a GB4 car around this circuit?
It's so much fun. You feel like it was made for a car like a GB4 car. You have these really high-speed corners, and then the last sector, the chicane, you're bouncing over the curbs, trying to carry as much speed as possible. It was so close to a margin of error. Same through corners like Coppice on the exit there. I tell all the drivers, you've got to run the wall of death. It's the only way around it. It's the only quick way around it. If you're not on the wall of death, you're going too slow.
No margin for error around Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Let's have a look at the circuit in a bit more detail with Lewis, and then after that, I'll run you through an onboard lap onboard Alicia Parmosky.
So then to Donington Park on the Leicestershire-Derbyshire border. Of course, some of the most fantastic corners in British motorsport. Redgate, the run down the Craner curves, up through the old hairpin, overtaking opportunities at McLean's and Coppice, and that little back stretch down towards the Fogarty S, and then into the tight hairpin at the Melbourne hairpin. Of course, that final turn at Goddard's also is an excellent overtaking opportunity, back onto the Wheatcroft Straight and down towards turn 1 at Redgate. One of the most notable features around this circuit is, of course, the elevation over the 2.5 miles, around about 4 kilometres around the circuit. It sees 35.8 metres of elevation, most notably down at the old hairpin as we climb back up the hill around the 12 turns. So much great racing can happen here at Donington Park.
Let's ride on board with Alicia Parmosky in her bright yellow Elite Motorsport GB4 car. First corner, Redgate coming up. Open up the entry by using all of the pit entry on the left-hand side, and then nip back to the apex in the middle of the corner. Watch out for oversteer on the exit, and stay on the red and white curbs. Track limits is going to be important in both qualifying and the races. The right hand of Hollywood leads into the downhill fast left hand of the Craner curves. Stay left to open up the full commitment old hairpin. Bit of curb on the entry, watch out for track limits again on the exit. We're now headed back uphill through Schwantz, opening up the corner, just trying to reduce any scrubbing, and again, stay left to open up McLean's. Off camber and drops away at the exit, the car can easily go light and force you wide. Next up, Coppice. Again, stay left, use the curb on the inside, completely blind on entry. You have to commit to the corner before you can see where you're going. Now we're on the exhibition straight. A moment to breathe and think about the braking point for Fogarty X's coming up next. Over to the right-hand side, use a little bit of curb on the right to open up the left. Quickly left, quickly right. Watch out for the bumps through the middle of the right-hander. It can throw you off if you hit those incorrectly. Now into the final sector, 2 hairpins. The first, the right-hander of the Melbourne Loop. Braking late and deep, getting a late apex for good traction out of this corner, all of the road on the exit once again. 1 corner to go now, Goddard. Opening up the corner, staying all the way to the right-hand side, turning in fairly early to make sure you hook the curb on the inside as Alicia does there to get good rotation in the middle of the corner and then concentrate on good traction for the exit. That is a lap of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Great to get an onboard lap in the GB4 cars so that you guys at home can see what it's like to smash around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Alicia actually probably be a little bit disappointed with qualifying. P7, not where she expects to be, and her teammate Harrison only in P6. So Elite Motorsport not quite having the pace that they showed at Silverstone last time out. It's interesting how the teams, ebb and flow in terms of pace at different circuits throughout the season, Max.
It is, but the grid here, I think it's the closest it's actually been all season in front qualifying. I know one of the drivers I'm working with myself, he was 2 tenths away from 5th place, and he found that 2 tenths the next lap. But then we didn't get, it's that tight. Yeah. It's that kind of difference. So a small mistake, a small error around the circuit, you're suddenly going to drop 1, 2, 3 positions that you could have done. Yep. So it's so close, and that's the importance of getting everything right and hooked up together.
Yeah, you said it's very, very close. Close, apart from basically our pole sitter, Lenus Granfors, who was about 2.5 tenths clear at the front of the field, but then sort of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, down to about 9th or 10th. I think it was very, very close. A 10th could drop you a couple of places. So very, very close round here. Also, noticing qualifying. Track limits, quite a lot of drivers getting lap times deleted for track limits. Basically, if you put 2 wheels past the curbs or the white lines, if there is no curb, lap time gets deleted. Is that something that you think that could come into play in the races, Max, in terms of penalties?
Yeah, I do, massively. This circuit, probably more than most, because as well we have these great sensors here, which basically there's no argument. If you hit a sensor, you've gone over track limits. Through the S's as well, they've got blue curbs, so you're allowed to run the yellow ones, but not the blue ones. Yeah. So, again, it's a very easy spot of eye that, and it's a judge of fact. You've either done it or you haven't. Yeah. So, and you're so on the limit here. The exit the corners, they're so high speeds, and you're often trying to turn it to hold it in. It's really quite difficult. So, trying to carry that momentum. I mean, it's better than if it was grass on the exit, but at the same, but at the same time, that's what makes it that difference between being able to extract that couple hundredths, to gain those positions.
Well, fine margins at the front, as in any high-level motorsport, of course. But we mentioned our pole sitter, Lenus Granfors. Naomi Newman caught up with him earlier on. Let's hear what he had to say.
So, Lenus, first 2 poles, how are you kind of feeling about that quali?
Yeah, we almost had it at Silverstone, so yeah, it feels great now to take the double pole here at Donington Park.
And you've really had some great race wins. How much are you looking forward to hopefully achieving more?
Yeah, it would be fun to race. Yeah, in Silverstone was a bit. I was qualifying P2, so it's a bit of a fight to overtake Harrison. But I think I'm hoping we get a bit of more chill race.
And it's your first time here. Are you really looking forward? Have you been enjoying the track?
Yeah, the track is fun. It's a lot of speed, and it's also the chicane is going a bit slower. And so yeah, it's a really fun track.
And now, after all these results, you're really looking for that kind of race towards actually getting that championship.
Yeah, we are fighting for the championship still, so yeah, we will see how many points we can get through the weekend.
Perfect, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Lenus Granfors, of course, there we heard from pole sitter for race 1 and race 2, very, very quick, and it's good to see the Fortec have basically refound the blistering pace that they showed in 2022 with Nicholas Taylor. Nicholas went on to win the championship in I don't know if it's the same chassis, but in effectively the same car with Fortec. Lenus, clearly a very fast driver. He's got experience in the Nordic countries in single-seaters and actually touring cars as well. We know he's quick. We've seen it now. What do you reckon the other drivers on the grid need to do to try and close that gap?
Yeah, it's quite a hard spot. I mean, Granfors just looks so smooth. Whenever you're watching him on the side, everything he does, he makes it look so easy. Which is quite painful to watch. Everyone looks on the limit, but he just looks so smooth. It's so easy. He's just nicely coming through. 4-wheel slide. It looks really great. So maybe they can like smooth out their driving a bit. But again, you're looking for 0.2 of a second, 0.3 from pole to second. That's not actually a lot amount of time. You know, it's so to be telling the drivers, don't overthink this. You're not looking for a second here. Don't need to rewrite the wheel. We're just looking for minor corrections, marginal gains.
Marginal gains indeed, and it sounds like the cars are firing up, so we're going to be going any minute now. But Max, what do you expect in this race? Do you expect a lot of movement, overtaking, and if so, where on the circuit do you think the drivers are going to be looking for those moves?
I think the hairpin behind us is going to be the big one. That's going to be the big pinch point, especially on lap 1. I do think there's going to be a lot of overtaking, a lot of really great hard racing that we come to expect from GB4.
Yeah, and we've also can see some drivers taking new tyres, some drivers electing to use the tyres they had in qualifying. Of course, here is a very, very right-hand dominated circuit, only a couple of left-hand corners around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. We've heard about siding tyres before, Max. Do you reckon that will mean that there's not a huge amount of difference between a brand new tyre and a tyre that's only done a little bit of work on the inside of the car?
Yeah, but I think the thing that I'm guessing people are going to be doing with that is they're banking on it raining tomorrow, and then they won't therefore have to run the new tyre tomorrow, so they might as well use it now.
Yeah.
That would be the purpose. However, I think we've seen from qualifying from the practices, the new tyre doesn't seem to give you that much of an advantage, and it comes from the middle to the end. It won't give you the benefit at the start. You're going to struggle at the start compared to being on the older rubber.
So potentially even the slightly used tyres might give the drivers an advantage at the start of the race. And just before we head off into the race, and I'll shortly be handing over to our commentator Lenus McGlade, good to see our driver starting in second position there for the KMR Sport team, Brandon McCacken. There was talk that he might not have actually been able to make it back for this round in terms of budget. Luckily, he's found some money, some backing, also started a crowdfunding campaign to get him on the grid, and it's good to see him back and also doing very well, putting it second on the grid, so he'll be looking to have another good round. I think he lies currently, I think he's third in the championship, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, expect to see good running from him. And also our second place in the championship driver, Harry Burgoyne Jr. Harry is starting in 5th place, so not quite as high as he would have hoped, and also I'm sure it would have been a thorn in his side seeing his teammate put it a couple of places higher than him.
It will be, but also you got to think, right, what can I learn from that? It's almost beneficial than if he was last. If you were 5th and the highest one up, you can't rely on your teammates then. By being second, you can go, right, I can look at that, I can learn before we get to the first race.
Talking of learning, Finn Harrison, the back of shot just here, starting in 6th place for the Elite Motorsport team, that bright yellow car. We know he had a very, very difficult start to the season. He had great pace at Alton Park, 3 DNFs after 3, not massive mistakes, but a very, very difficult start to the season. You're always going to be on the back foot. But he bounced back well at Silverstone. Great pace in qualifying. We saw him right up there, of course. And then in the races, unfortunately, didn't quite put it all together. But it seems like every time we see Finn Harrison, he takes a step forward and a step forward. He has experience in cars last season, I believe, in Janetta Junior. But it's a very different kettle of fish, isn't it? The single-seater slicks and wings compared to something like a Janetta Junior.
Yeah, 100%. Even the racing style, everything about how you go racing in the weekend completely changes. And I think what's good is up each setback, it doesn't seem to knock him too hard. He bounces back, he learns from it, and he keeps developing.
Yeah.
As it goes on. The racing he had at Silverstone was so great, so clean. Room left, but right on the edge. So he clearly learned lessons from Alton Park, and then that paid dividends when he got to Silverstone. Yeah,
and it's good for both of the elite teammates to be so close together. They've pretty much been inseparable at every session this season, both Alicia Parmosky and Finn Harrison. A lot of other drivers coming back and hoping to push on. The 2 GBR drivers, Callum Baxter and Maya Dionorine, they're 2 drivers that have come over from Canada. They're still learning the circuits. They've got a lot more to learn potentially than even some of the local drivers.
Yeah, definitely. They're showing up at a circuit on a Thursday. They've never seen it before. Forget about doing a year of Janetta Junior to then learn the circuit. They're showing up. They're doing a mega job. And Mayor over there, he literally hadn't run new tyres until qualifying. That was his first time on new tyres, and he's a 10th off the pack. That is an incredible job.
Yeah, and you say new tyres, a lot of the viewers at home will know exactly that slick tyres, when they're new, create a lot more grip. But for anyone at home who hasn't driven what a brand new slick tyre compared to a used tyre, just explain what it's like, because the difference is not just like putting new tyres in your road car.
No, it's you almost, until you felt it, you won't know what's there. In fact, it's often what you measure on is like how many new tyres have they had. On the Fridays you see it a lot where teams just try and run as many new tyres as you could afford to do, really, to find that extra bit, because that's what you start qualifying on, which is so important. You then also get a half a set new for the rest of the weekend, but qualifying's what determines 2 out of the 3 races. Well, 3 out of the 3 races, with the last one being the reverse grid of it. So it's so important to be able to maximise the amount of grip you're going to have, and you're only going to have a short window to do that.
But we mentioned Mayer, currently the number 44 for GBR, just on the left of shot there. He's in the white car. He's not the best at qualifying. He would have wanted to be higher, but again, you mentioned his brand new tyres is something that you need to get used to. But he will be starting on the reverse grid pole, because the whole grid qualified within 103%, so complete reverse grid. So looking forward to that. But I reckon it's just about time that we went racing. So I'm going to hand up in just a moment to our lead commentator, Lewis McGlade.
And so for the first of 2 visits then to Donington Park, and what has been an excellent season with visits to Alton Park, Silverstone, and then this weekend here round 7, 8 and 9. The series continues after this, though, keeping it in the United Kingdom as we head to Snetterton for that very long layout. Back to Silverstone, of course, before we return our way to Donington Park for the penultimate weekend of 2024, rounding out the season this year at Brands Hatch. But as we've said before, it is Donington Park, the host of this round of the championship, and what is a fantastic circuit to go racing at for cars like this. With the 160 brake horsepower they've got, it works really nicely around the circuit. So many opportunities to overtake round here. Opened back in 1931, went through a closure before reopening not too long ago, realistically, in the world of motorsport. So many overtaking opportunities around here. Redgate down at turn 1, Old Hairpin if you're brave down the back end of the circuit. You've got plenty down the Melbourne Hairpin, and of course the likes of McLean's and Coppice. Over the 2.5 miles, the main feature is that undulation. 35.8 metres of undulation, most of that done in the drop down from Redgate all the way through the crane and curves into the Old Hairpin before they head straight back up the hill. It is a perfect day for motorsport. As you can see, the sun's out, it's blue skies of racing, which, realistically speaking, is probably the first time this year that we've had to deal with such factors. It is quite windy, though, as we expect here at Donington Park. It really does kick up quite a lot round here as we get ready for them to leave the assembly area and head their way around. You can see it's 17 degrees Celsius, so temperature-wise it's pretty nice, but it is that wind. 26 kilometres an hour of wind. That is pretty quick. Coming off the east, it is a tailwind basically down into the first corner, which is going to cause a couple of problems when it comes to braking. They'll be carrying more speed in there. It means overtaking down into the first turn will be more difficult because the wind is effectively helping you, is pushing you down there from behind into that first turn. Whereas if it was a headwind into that first corner, the car ahead is effectively going slower than what you'd normally expect because of the wind holding it back, and that actually make overtaking a little bit easier. What that will do as well is it'll make it a little bit more tricky to keep that rear alive heading through that first corner. Heading down for the crane and curves there, you're going to have so much grip, especially going through the Old Hairpin and then throwing it back up the hill. What an excellent chance as well for a little bit of history this weekend, mostly courtesy of Lenus Granfors, who is on 3 consecutive victories at the moment. Of course, we didn't get the third victory, or the third race at Silverstone, so he's on 3 consecutive victories. The record is 4. That was Tom Mills last year, and did include a cancelled race as well. So obviously did the 4 and then had a cancelled one. This is basically what we've got here as well for Lenus Granfors. We've never had 5, so we could well be getting 5 consecutive race victories if Lenus Granfors can turn it around. I mean, he does seem to be the form man in the season. Obviously, I'm Lewis McGlade. You might be bored of my voice already because Piers Priors sprinted his way up with a slight assistance, I'll allow it, into the commentary booth. Hello there, what a lovely day outside.
It is a nice day, a stark contrast to what we had at Silverstone, where I had about
4 coats on. If anyone rewinds back, I'm actually I am actually a lot smaller than I look in the Silverstone broadcast. But yeah, I think I walked in. I just heard you talking about the wind. There's a quite heavy tailwind down the main straight and the exhibition straight, which will then be a headwind going through the old hairpin and all through the middle sector, which will feel very nice for the drivers actually. It should be good for some good lap times, because when you get headwind through the middle sector, you get extra grip with those front and rear wings, because the airspeed over the car is actually higher than the ground speed.
Will make turn 1 quite difficult though, having a tailwind into there. Obviously it's not even like the fact of overtaking down into there is going to be pretty tricky, but the fact of keeping the balance on the car, because that wind's going to almost like push the rear of the car around, right?
Exactly right, Lewis. When you get a tailwind in a single-seater slicks and wings car such as this, going into a braking zone, it just feels like the air is it's just lifting the rear of the car up a little bit, and you end up with less grip, so you end up with a bit more oversteer on the way into a corner, which if you're not completely dialed in with the car, you haven't got complete confidence, having a bit of extra rotation that you're not expecting on the way into a corner can be quite disconcerting, but clearly didn't affect the driver we're looking at there, the number 16 red and white Fortec Motorsport car of Lenus Granfors. He was almost 2 tenths clear at the front of the field in qualifying with similar conditions to what we are experiencing right now. And if Lenus gets a good start, it's going to be hard for anyone to catch and pass him, I think.
I absolutely agree. You may, if you've joined in with the GB4 Championship, you may think, wait, hang on a sec, that's a weird coloured Fox Motorsports car. That is the return of Liam McNeely into the championship. You caught up with him a little bit beforehand as well, seeming like he's got high hopes for this one. Qualified in 3rd position. We'll get the formation lap underway. We'll talk you through the grid order when we do so, and then we'll see who's going to be taking victory in round 7 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Should be quite a long formation lap, enough time for them to get plenty of heat into these tyres and get themselves ready for a race start. Did see a couple of stallers back in the previous round of the championship. Of course, Alicia Palmovsky in round 5, and that driver closest to your screen in the grey and blue car, that is Brandon McCacken, did also stall the car in round number 4. I think it was from like 5th or 6th place. I think it was 6th.
I don't remember exactly the place on the grid, but yeah, a stall for Brandon McCacken. And something we see actually fairly regularly for new drivers to this championship is getting these cars away from the line. Of course, they are turbocharged cars, and with single seaters such as these, they're not the easiest to get off the line with the slick tyres. You can easily over rev and get some wheel spin or dump the clutch a bit too aggressively and stall the car.
Well, as they'll head their way through Redgate down towards the Redgate sweepers, apparently, we'll see Lenus Granfors starting from pole position. Brandon McCacken alongside on the front row of the grid. Of course, has had a couple of poles this season. Liam McNeely has returned to the championship alongside Marcus Lucy, who got a podium back in Silverstone as well. Harry Burgoyne Jr., the driver that currently sits 2nd in the championship, will start from 5th, with the driver who took both pole positions at Silverstone, Finn Harrison, starting from 6th position alongside him. Alicia Palmovsky had a win back in Alton Park. See what she could do starting from 7th, with Callum Baxter in 8th for the Graham Brunton Racing team. Then it's Leon Wilson, started from the front row in the previous round of the championship, down in 9th alongside Chloe Grant at the back end of the top 10, before we get to Brandon Templeton and Megan Bruce in 11th and 12th position for Fox Motorsports. Jack Taylor starts from 13th position alongside Dan Hickey, both representing Fortec from 13th and 14th position. Of course, one final position on the grid. It is Maya Dianarine for the Gray and Brunton Racing guy. He said about he obviously wouldn't be too happy with that position on the grid. Obviously, it's last place. But we know that all of these drivers do have the pace and the ability to work their way through this field. That's what makes GB4 so exciting to watch.
Yeah, I mentioned on the grid, just less than 103% between first and last on the grid, which is great to see all of our drivers getting within that that landmark time, which means that we will have a full reverse grid for race 3 of this weekend, round 9 of the season. We just saw a glimpse there of the Fogarty S's, which highlighted those different coloured sausage curves on the inside of the second part, the right-hand part of the chicane that Max Marzorati was chatting about on the dummy grid. The drivers have been instructed that they are allowed to take the red and white curb, but they are also allowed to put their wheels onto the little yellow curbs. But the blue, slightly higher metallic sausages, one, you're not allowed to do it, and if you touch that, you'll get your lap deleted or do it too many times in the race, and you could be seeing a penalty come your way. But two, they are far higher than you want to be, or a lump that is far larger than you want to be driving over in such a low-slung single-seater car.
Yeah, it's like taking a speed bump in the middle of town without slowing down for it. It's noticeable. Let's just go with that.
Well, it's so noticeable. In fact, if you hit it with the bottom of your car, you could actually damage the chassis beyond repair. So something that the drivers will not wanting to be doing during this race. Lenus Granfors a long way behind his the front of his grid box.
Absolutely, massively. Either way, 18 minutes goes onto the clock anyway, and we'll see if Lenus Granfors can win for the 4th consecutive time. The lights are on ahead of us as we get ready for round 7 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, and we are underway. Not a great start from Brandon McCacken on the right-hand side in the 89 grey and blue car, but look at that from Liam McNeely with the white with the yellow highlights. That is an excellent start from McNeely down the inside into the first corner, but it is a great one for our race leader. Granfors will lead in the white and red Fortec car as we begin our descent down the Craner curve.
So nearly contact between McNeely's front left-hand tyre and the rear right of McCacken. Now McNeely's under pressure from the car behind the KMR Sport driver of Harry Burgoyne Jr. And it was actually a poor start from 7th place on the grid for the second of the yellow Elite Motorsport cars of Alicia Palmowski as well. We're looking at Marcus Luttio as Harry Burgoyne Jr. continues to pile pressure on McNeely.
Luttio did not have a good start in that dark blue car, dropping back down the order. Out wide goes Harry Burgoyne Jr. to open up the door for Finn Harrison to come through in that bright yellow Elite Motorsports car. So moving up the order, Marcus Luttio, who's got some good pace and put on some great overtakes back in Silverstone, will be desperate to do very much the same thing here today in that dark blue, very distinctive Luttio.com entry. As there comes Palmowski in the 21, straight down the inside. That was a very brave move on Baxter, and maybe she's overcooked it in the yellow Elite car.
Yeah, broke late, and you saw her touch those dark blue curves that sort of jumped the car in the air, and I think she's actually dropped down back behind, yes, she has dropped behind Baxter and Chloe Grant and now Baron Templeton and Leon Wilson. Oh, maybe she's got damage.
Yeah.
I think she's slowing.
I remember what I think someone said something. If you touch those blue cars, the blue's curb, you might damage the car. Well, I think we've just seen it. So,
yeah.
Wow, excellent foresight from you. As we got some more action coming down the hill. Templeton looking to the inside in the Fox Motorsports, the blue and orange car, trying to make a move. As there is Palmowski coming back into the pit lane. Here comes Marcus Luttio in the number 11.
Luttio looking around the outside of Burgoyne Jr. Or is that Burgoyne getting back past on Luttio? No, Luttio didn't make his way through, did he, in the end on Harry Burgoyne? But on that first lap, Harry Burgoyne Jr. went from attacking for 3rd place to dropping all the way down and being under pressure for what is 6th place nearly.
Indeed, with the first lap completed, expected to get, I think, 10 laps around here. It'll be very close on the time sheet.
Oh, lovely slow, mate.
See this.
Okay, so Palmowski broke late to get on the inside of Baxter, but you can see, hit that blue curb very, very hard, and looks like must have damaged the suspension. Where are they looking on the car? Yeah, right rear suspension. They're taking the rear bodywork off, potentially breaking a rear roll bar or something. Again, we'll find out more about that later on, but they're definitely looking inside the rear of the car where the suspension sits. So really, really disappointing for Palmowski. Such a small mistake with such a big cost.
Now, she's not going to be able to score points, any major points in this race, so there's that. But is there a thought, because the next time they'll be driving these cars is in the next race tomorrow morning, is there a chance where they're just thinking, we need to fix this car? There's a bit of a lock up there from Liam McNeely in the foreground. They must fix this car and then send it back out so they can at least understand what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity, despite the fact that Palmowski's probably not going to get any points now because she's gone a whole lap down, maybe even more. It'd be great for them to try and fix the car if they can, to get it out on circuit, to ensure that they have actually fixed whatever the problem is before they get to run again tomorrow, because they will not, as you mentioned, Lewis, get out on circuit until they're racing an angle once again tomorrow morning. But bitterly disappointing for Palmowski. As I mentioned, the margins are so fine, but tell you what isn't disappointing for Fortec Motorsports is Granfors driving very, very fast at the front of the field, gapping to 7/10 over McCacken in 2nd place and setting the fastest lap. Only slightly faster than McCacken, though. McCacken seems to be going with him.
McCacken is keeping him honest. That is the important bit. So Brandon McCacken keeping the Swede at the front of the field honest at the moment as we look at the battle between Harry Burgoyne Jr. and Marcus Luttio. This is for 5th position at the moment. So Harry Burgoyne Jr. in that 5th position. Marcus Luttio desperate to try and work their way through. I'll read you through the order now as Granfors is leading from McCacken, McNeely, Harrison in 4th position, then Harry Burgoyne Jr., Marcus Luttio in 6th, Chloe Grant 7th position, decent effort, Callum Baxter in 8th position, with Brandon Templeton in 9th, Leon Wilson in 10th, with Megan Bruce in 11th position, Dan Hickey in 12th, Jack Taylor in 13th position.
Sorry, Lewis, to interrupt. Someone's gone through the gravel. That is Finn Harrison. Finn Harrison went deep into the Fogs. Yes, is now defending, and I just heard it. I thought, sounds like someone's going through the gravel. Again, the Elite Motorsports cars have both been come across for a little bit at the Fogarty S's, and again, the margins are so fine between a perfect line through that chicane and coming either off worse by damage to the car or to the gravel, as Finn Harrison fights hard against Callum Baxter to maintain that position, which is now will be fighting for 7th place.
Yeah, indeed, and it is going to be a feisty fight. Look at all the grass has been kicked up as well on Harrison's car. Thankfully, it doesn't seem to have gone into the side pod. He's gone straight around the outside, bit of contact as well. There was a light bit. Thankfully, all kept clean between the pair of them, as here comes the move to the inside from the Fox Motorsports car, Brandon Templeton, that white, blue and orange highlighted car. Look out for Liam Wilson as well, for Arden Motorsports, and that 27 to come down the inside as well, making the move on Baxter as they head up the hill out of the old hairpin.
Yeah, Baxter getting a fair whack to his left front tyre as Finn Harrison squeezed down at the apex, potentially slightly too much, and that contact luckily didn't mean that either of them didn't have any lasting damage to either of those drivers, but unfortunately that has forced Baxter down from 8th place down to just outside the top 10 now, I think.
I think he might have just been moved into 10th position there, with Wilson making that move. So that is Baxter dropping down the order. Sadly, you can see there the timing on the left-hand side, where you can see the gap for Granfors at the moment, 7 tenths clear. Once again, McNeely has locked up. I've seen him do that every single one. The 3 laps we've seen them, 4 laps we've seen him go down into the Melbourne hairpin. He's locked that front right every single time. He is not holding on to these tyres. No,
he's pushing hard in that last phase of the braking, so shouldn't do too much damage to these Pirelli tyres if it's only the last phase of the braking when the inside right is unloaded. But a really interesting fight going on at the front of the field. That not that lap just gone, but the lap before, Granfors and McCacken both set an identical lap time on the same lap. This time out, you see Templeton, a dive up the inside of Finn Harrison. Templeton in that white, orange and dark blue car going past Harrison in the yellow car. That was a great textbook move for Redgate Corner. Getting in the slipstream, diving out late, diagonally to the apex, blocking off your opponent on the inside, and then defending down to the old hairpin. An excellent move from Templeton.
It's not done yet, though, as we head up the hill through Starkeys, then Schwantz. It is the move to the left-hand side for Harrison in the yellow Elite Motorsports car. Still can't find that move up into McLean's, now into Coppice. Leon Wilson sat behind the 27, that black-white with slight red stripes. That is the Arden Motorsports car, as Wilson's going to try and find the way past. A couple of groups of 4 as well, this one being led by Megan Bruce, Dan Hickey involved, Jack Taylor as well, with Dean Areen in tow. That is the battle for just outside the top 10 with 11th position Megan Bruce heading that in the number 9 Fox Motorsports car.
Yeah, looking at the yellow car just in the shot there of Finn Harrison, I can't help but think that that trip to the gravel has certainly not helped the pace of that Elite Motorsports car, as we now see Callum Baxter putting some pressure on the back of Leon Wilson in the number 27, Baxter in the 45 with the mostly white with dark blue car. But Finn Harrison had a lot of pace at the start of the race, and is now it's falling away from him, as we see Luttio having a look up the inside. That'll be for 4th place.
And that is a big move for Marcus Luttio. Again, Luttio.com, the team entry. We know that Marcus Luttio is a quality driver. We saw this at Silverstone with his march up the order into the podium. He's clearly a great racer. And I will say, I am very fond of that blue. I think it looks fantastic. I'd like to see a livery on it, but hey, do you know what? Looks great for our privateer entry, one of the privateer entries that we've had in the GB4 Championship. It is an excellent sight to see Luttio doing so strong. 10 minutes left to go. We've got side-by-side down the craners of Brandon Templeton on the right-hand side in the 24, trying to get around the outside of Finn Harrison, who's worked his way through as Harrison is able then to move up into 7th position. Yeah, Harrison basically returning the favour on that Templeton did to him the lap before. And now Templeton's going to be under pressure from Wilson in the 27 as well. He's had a good exit out of there, so Templeton's going to have to defend into Coppice. Not really a way around the outside of Coppice, because the corner goes on and on and on. And there we go, there comes the inside look then coming from Leon Wilson. But of course, like you say, with the speed being carried around the outside of Coppice, it works out in favour of Brandon Templeton in the 24. The car that's in the foreground of your shot, the dark blue, orange and white, with the almost black and white car behind. It really is a dark blue Arden and someone did kick up a lot of grass. I think it might have been Harrison again, as here comes Wilson to the inside in the 27.
Oh, what a move from Wilson, although locks up and goes very, very deep, and that allows Callum Baxter through on the both of them, but Wilson still fighting, squeezing Templeton to the right-hand side.
Such a good read there from Baxter to have swept past the pair of them as they're still side by side working their way down the hill. Now into Goddard's the final turn. The inside line being taken by the 27 of Wilson. A little bit of contact and a bit of a squeeze off, and you can see all that grass being kicked up into the radiator of Brandon Templeton, the 24, who's going to let his teammate Megan Bruce pass in that number 9 Fox Motorsports car with the red highlights. Yeah, it might have been a little bit too much of a squeeze.
Yeah, Liam Wilson was doing some excellent racing, forcing his way up the inside in the Melbourne hairpin, still side by side through Goddard's, potentially squeezing Templeton off the road on the exit. That's not ours to call. We only get the one angle. The race stewards and Rob Bath, the driving standards advisor, will also have a look at that and advise the drivers whether that was acceptable or not, and apply any penalties if they are necessary. And now we have a Fox Motorsport fight for the positions in the 10th and 11th place.
I said it might be 9 or 10 laps. I just can't do maths. I meant 12 or 13. We've almost exactly halfway done in the race. It's 6 laps were complete. We're running fast in the 1 minute 30, so I actually reckon we will get a 13th lap around here. They crossed the line to start the 7th lap. With 9 minutes completing the race, almost exactly. It's 0.3 of a second over that. So we will get, I'm assuming, a 13th lap in this race, which is great because the racing's excellent. As there is a big move from Hickey to the inside.
That was a big move from Hickey. That was late, but about as late as you can go, but done effectively. A great move from Hickey past Brandon Templeton, who's going backwards as Templeton looks to return the favour of one corner later, and a very nice decisive overtake on the inside of Goddard's. Not easy to do there, so easy to lock up because the circuit goes over a crest in the braking zone and then drops away at the apex, but he's done very well and now is defending down into Redgate.
Yeah, indeed. Hickey's trying to find a way through, but he's also got his teammate behind, Jack Taylor. Of course, the 2 Fortec cars, one of them with the blue highlights. That one is, of course, Dan Hickey, as we'll see our race leader. Speaking of Fortec cars, really being kept honest, got to be said. Lenus Granfors at the front of the field. The gap is hovering around a second. Brandon McCacken is absolutely lobbing that KMR Sport car around. We know he's got good car control, McCacken. We saw it in the wet at Alton Park with the lovely slow-mos of him sliding through the Knickerbrook chicane, and also he has a background in rallycross as well, and Formula Ford 1600s, came second in the BRSCC Formula Ford 1600 Championship last season, and then before that, I believe back in the Isle of Ireland, was experienced in rallycross cars, so absolutely no stranger to some oversteer. Which, I've always said I'm more speaking in the terms of esports racing, so gaming, where if you take part in multiple disciplines, it'll make you a better driver. That does work in real life as well. If you take part in multiple disciplines, you'll kind of learn those little bits of car control where you kind of think realistically, pound for pound, they don't really translate. But it's those subtle things where, like say, if you're quite good at rallycross, you've got a really good understanding as to which way the car's pitched and how to get the most out of it and how to slide it through a corner whilst keeping speed as well. Look back to Chloe Grant, who is doing all right. I mean, she's running in 6th position at the moment, is Chloe Grant. She's very disappointed with how Silverstone ended. Yeah, Harry Burgoyne's dropped off the back of Marcus Luttio, so potentially was it Harry Burgoyne that made a little trip through the gravel or the grass and the exit of the Fogarty-Esches that we didn't see, because there was a lot of grass actually I noticed on the last lap sitting on the racing line on the way down to the Melbourne hairpin, so either someone else has gone off or that's just residual debris from when Harrison went off. But Chloe Grant, probably her strongest showing of this season so far, staying so close to the back of her teammates. She's took a while to get used to that KMR Sport car this season. Of course, took a year out last year in the GB4 Championship to go and race in Formula 1 Academy. She was in the Championship full-time with Graham Brunton Racing the year before. But no, showing great pace this weekend and actually putting the pressure on Harry Burgoyne Jr., who is second in the Championship at the moment. Yeah, she's actually looking really strong in this race because she's closing down on Harry Burgoyne Jr. And could well be going on the attack. And trust us when we say she is not shy about the idea of putting on a move, and I'm sure with the final 4 laps of proceedings we are definitely going to see some form of an sure there's going to be an attempt, there's going to be something in here, there's got to be a look at least from Chloe Grant as she closes in on Harry Burgoyne Jr. once more across the line.
Yeah, the gap coming down between those two. The gap at the front of the field staying almost exactly the same. The last laps from our leaders are 29.01 for Granfors, are 29.07 from McCacken, so that gap is stable at the front. But this is probably the closest battle we have inside the top 10 at the moment between the two KMR teammates, Harry Burgoyne Jr., the number 68, and Chloe Grant, the 66, who we are looking at right now.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to tell them apart, but there are some orange highlights particularly on the mirror. The mirrors of Harry Burgoyne Jr. and they're blue on Chloe Grant. I know you'll be like, yeah, well, the helmets are all different, and I'm like, yeah, fair enough. I think it's a slightly more colourful and bright helmet on Harry Burgoyne Jr.'s car. It's more of a white and sort of blue, I guess.
Yeah, Saltire inspired helmet for the Scottish Chloe Grant, who currently sits in 6th position. Chloe Grant's going to be sitting right in the slipstream of Harry Burgoyne. Unfortunately, with the wind direction being a tailwind down this straight and the start-finish straight, it doesn't actually help overtaking hugely. You get more of a slipstream effect if the wind is 180 degrees the other direction, so sort of a headwind down these straights. So unfortunately, won't be able to maximise it as much as potentially she could, but she'll still be pushing on. Good to see Chloe that is continually improving. I think she's had a lot of experience in different single-seater cars and has been pushing on, and we know the KMR Sport team are one of the best teams, of course. Dominant victory in the championship last season from Tom Mills, and they'll be using that experience with all 3 of their drivers, and Chloe back in the championship using that experience to hopefully push on and get more top 5s as the season continues on.
She's certainly looking fairly strong at the moment. Speaking of teammates going side by side, Brandon Templeton in the 24 has once again made a move on Megan Bruce to move back inside the top 10. I don't think that battle is particularly over, and you've got the 2 Fortec cars back here as well. The 17 of Dan Hickey trying to keep Jack Taylor behind for 12th, and let's be honest, Dia Noreen after starting from the final position on the grid, the only one they've made up has been on Alicia Palmovsky, obviously with their retirement from the race, basically dropping down the order. Dia Noreen is keeping them honest, those 2 Fortec cars. We'll keep our eye on the 2 Foxes. Of course, the 24 of Templeton ahead of Megan Bruce with the red highlights.
Yes, I think Megan Bruce has actually made a good step forward this weekend in terms of pace. Brandon Templeton at the first couple of rounds was quite consistently a little bit quicker than Megan Bruce in the official sessions, but this weekend Megan Bruce been closer to Brandon, and both of them have, of course, benefited from having Liam McNeely back in the championship. Of course, did the whole season last season with Fox Motorsport, 3rd in the championship. He's a quick driver. He's got some experience out in the US in very similar cars now as well, and proving that he's a quick driver in 3rd place. But we're cutting back to the front of the field as that gap at the front visually has come down. Yes, 2.5 tenths to that last lap it was has gone down less than a second, down to 8 tenths as McCacken set the fastest lap, but then was immediately beaten by McNeely in 3rd place. So the ebbing and flowing of pace as the race goes on is interesting to see, and hopefully that gap comes down so we get a last lap shootout for the win.
Yeah, indeed. Just to clarify, as much as you can see the time is ticking down, 1 minute 10 seconds basically left to go. As far as we're aware, this is not the last lap of the race. By our timesheets, they should cross the line with about 7 seconds left on that timesheet. So this is the penultimate lap of proceedings. It is Granfors leading from McCacken and from McNeely on his return to the GB4 Championship. He's been building his way back into it. I did think that number 49 was looming large in the background, trying to keep these 2 honest, and certainly is closing his way back in on the 89 and the 16 at the front of the field.
Yeah, good lap on that last lap from Liam McNeely. He's 28.5, was 10.5 faster than McCacken in 2nd place, and nearly 3 tenths faster than our leader. So potentially that will be the tyre strategies that Max and I chatted about on the grid. I didn't actually get a chance to look in detail about who took 2 new tyres and who is recycling tyres from qualifying, because as Max mentioned, if you recycle the tyres from qualifying, you might be slightly better at the start of the race, but then will fall away at the end. But you can see McCacken pulling out and trying to just distract our race leader, Lenus Granfors, at the front of the field in that white and red number 16 Fortec Motorsports car, and that gap's come down again. I reckon we're going to have an attempt for the lead this time. 4 tenths is the gap now. Not quite close enough for a dive into Redgate, but by the middle sector at the end of the lap, we could be seeing a challenge for the lead, which is exactly what we want, Lewis.
Yes, indeed. Again, this could be a 4th consecutive victory for Granfors if he's able to take it. We're on to the final lap here at Donington Park, but where's the opportunity? The thing is, as much as it's a tailwind down into turn 1, which I've already ticked off, it's a tailwind, of course, then into the Fogget ES, into the Melbourne hairpin as well. So there's overtaking opportunities. It's even harder than normal. Does mean that up here there could well be something, but I'm just going to say McCacken's far too far back at the moment. Yeah,
too far back to launch an attack, although he's had a good run through McLean's, and if he can do the same in Coppice, then the Melbourne hairpin, if you're going to send a dive bomb, that's the place to do it.
Certainly so, and let's be honest, do not count out Goddard's that final turn on the circuit. We're into the final kilometre or so around here. Is there going to be any attempt at the moment? Granfors is holding on, looking to set a record this weekend for most consecutive victories in GB4. It requires 5. He could do that tomorrow morning as long as he keeps this victory. He's being kept honest by McCacken as they work their way down into the hairpin. Of course, Granfors in the race lead at the moment as they work their way down into that final turn. Of course, McCacken is close, but I don't think there's going to be any switches between the top two as Granfors will come through the final corner to take victory. McCacken in second position with McNeely in third. Did set the fastest lap of the race, but was unable to do anything more than that. It is an excellent 4th consecutive victory for Granfors. Shout out to Marcus Luttio as well, across the line in 4th place for the Luttio.com team. Harry Burgoyne Jr. in 5th, with Chloe Grant in 6th place, then Harrison. Of course, you've still got all this battling happening just outside the top 10, as we do have Dia Noreen in the number 44 working their way past Jack Taylor in the Fortec car, that all-white car basically, moving its way up now into 13th position. So very, very impressive there for Dia Noreen to have worked up that extra position. But what more can you say about this driver here? It is an excellent performance from Lenus Granfors once more, taking a victory. Our championship leader, and that will look even more comfortable. Of course, I will update you with the championship standings once we've interviewed the top 3, and we'll see exactly how things are standing. But I can tell you, Lenus Granfors is looking very, very strong and very, very tough to beat after 7 rounds, 6 races really complete. Obviously, we had the one cancelled back in Silverstone, but it's starting to really take control. We saw flashes of it back in Donington Park, but now we are really seeing the real Lenus Granfors. You can see how much dirt and grass and stuff there is in McCacken's car. Obviously, any time Granfors would run wide, the grass would be kicked up from him and thrown basically into the radiator of McCacken's car. And so yeah, it's sometimes that can be a bit difficult, but that's the joys of being behind. Maybe if the wind changes direction tomorrow morning, you might see a little bit more of racing in it. It was actually a calmer affair than what we were expecting as they work their way into pit lane and then down into Parc Fermé, where you'll see Lenus Granfors once again take to the top step of the podium. Like I say, he took the victory in the 3rd race of the weekend back in Donington Park, won both of them at Silverstone that we did, and now starting winning here. He is on pole position tomorrow as well, is Lenus Granfors, so could well be a tough man to beat. But if we see that kind of pace out of McCacken, I mean, I will say for McCacken, he had a fairly average start. Now, if he can sort that out and get on top of that, then yeah, he's going to be very strong indeed, as Matt Acton decides to get right in the way, obviously going after all those photographs. You've got to get the big one as Granfors climbs out of the car. I'm sure he's going to be getting quite a collection of these kinds of photographs out of the car, holding the finger up, thinking, I am a winner once more. Yeah, he is going to be adding to those. There is Brandon McCacken out of the car. Ollie Dutton over to say hello to Granfors, of course. Ollie Dutton, team manager for Fortec, who helped guide Nicholas Taylor to the championship back in 2022. Handshakes between themselves and Brandon McCacken as well. Liam McNeely, very solid return to GB4. Of course, he is racing over in the United States, so that's where we see him race for the most part, to be perfectly honest. But still, wanted to keep his eye in when it comes to racing, so jump back into familiar territory with Fox with the GB4 Championship. And once again, continuing on with a 3rd place, and of course, the fastest lap of the race for McNeely as well, which isn't too bad. How much quicker was he? He was, to be fair, he did go in that race. He was 0.3 faster nearly than our race leader when it comes to personal best laps. Ended up finishing 3 seconds down on Granfors and could well be in contention for some more. Cam on cam, but I think the real talking point is that we need to head down to Piers Pryor, who's catching up with our race winner.
Lenus, a great race there. Good pace in qualifying, put you on pole position. You got a great start, but it seemed like at the end of the race, Brandon just closed in on you there. Was the car going away from you a bit?
Yeah, and then I think the tire was starting to overheat, so I was trying to pull away in the beginning, but he was fast, so it was just right behind me all the time, so I needed to have an eye on the mirror all the time. So yeah, it was good.
It must feel really good to get a 4th win in a row.
Yeah, I'm hoping for it to get 2 more this weekend.
Yep, and of course if you go with a win tomorrow, that'll be the record for the most wins in a row if you get 5 tomorrow. Are you thinking ahead to that already, or are you just going to enjoy this for tonight?
Yeah, I think I'm going to enjoy this for tonight, and yeah, we have pole tomorrow, and let's see what also we can do in the reverse grid, so I think it would be fun.
Linus, congratulations. We'll let you go and celebrate with your team. I'm hoping I can grab a word with Brandon McCacken, our driver who's in 2nd place, who's just over there. He's going to bring him in a second. Brandon driving for the KMR Sport team. At one point, Brandon, there was doubts on whether you might be able to make it to this round, but you're here. You've worked really hard behind the scenes, and surely a 2nd place was nearly all you could do, but a great result for all the hard work.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here. Just it was a great race. Lenus drove really well. I felt like I had the pace on him, but just any time I got too close, just the dirty air, just couldn't cope with it. The last, maybe 3 laps, started to make better roads, was moving on his mirrors. He made a couple of tiny mistakes, but it just wasn't enough to really get onto him. It's a hard track to follow here, just the way it is. But yeah, I'm happy. Pace is good. The start wasn't the best, but we held 2nd, which is good as I could ask for, really. And yeah, looking forward to tomorrow, definitely.
Let's talk about that start, because as you mentioned, not the best start. Of course, you had an issue at the start. You've had an issue with the starts before. Not the fastest, actually up your inside. Liam McNeely nearly contact, but you just about held it around the outside. Was that a critical moment in your race?
Definitely, yeah. If I didn't get McNeely around the outside in turn 1, it would have been a disaster compared to what it was like. So yeah, just to start, maybe a bit overly cautious because of the issues I had at Silverstone, but got away. I managed to hold 2nd after turn 1 around the outside, and then just got to work, just tried to chip away, consistent as I could. Just in the end, he didn't put a foot wrong. But yeah, as I said, happy to be here. These results will all help try and get me to Snetterton. So I've got here because of the great help of my sponsors, hard work from me and my dad, the amazing, generous people that donated to my GoFundMe I set up. So yeah, hopefully be at Snetterton and hopefully get a win or 2 tomorrow.
We'll see how you do. We'll see how you get on tomorrow. Thanks very much. We'll let you go and celebrate with the team. And I'm going to grab a word with our 3rd place driver, Liam McNeely, who we heard from just beforehand. Hopefully I can grab a word with Liam. Liam, come on over. Liam started in 3rd place, ended in 3rd place. Do you reckon that was par for the course, or could you have gone one better?
Well, we got a really good start. It was just a shame that we lost so much time early on. I was a bit further back when I sort of got my head down really. So if we managed to, stay a bit closer, I reckon it could have been a different fight. But we didn't use our 2 new tyres in that one, so we'll see tomorrow how we do.
Interesting actually, because your pace actually came on stronger at the end of the race than potentially at the start. We saw you actually set the fastest lap of the race, I think, with a couple of laps to go. I don't know whether it ended up as the fastest lap, but you definitely closed in the last 2 or 3 laps as the leaders came together. With those new tyres still in hand, you reckon you've got a good opportunity for a good result tomorrow? Yeah,
100%. I mean, I think Brandon and all 3 KMRs used then 2 new tyres, so with the pace that we've got on, old tyres, I think we can go even faster on 2 new tyres. So yeah, we'll see. Obviously, the weather's comes into play tomorrow. There's a bit of rain coming, so we'll see what happens.
How do you fancy your chances in the rain?
Yeah, I'm quite happy in the rain, to be fair. Throw anything at me, I'll be all right.
Just a quick word, it must be a good result for Fox Motorsport. Of course, you're coming back again, family team. Must be good for you in terms of the whole group.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's what I've come back for, to get Fox up there and stuff like that. So, good to get a podium, and we go again tomorrow.
Liam, thank you so much for chatting to us. I'll let you celebrate with the Fox Motorsport team. That's our podium interviews. Let's have a look back at some of the highlights from that race before we grab a word with some of the other drivers and have a look at the podium as well.
Cheers, Piers, and we'll jump straight in. Highlights, of course, from round 7 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. Lenus Granfors with an excellent start at the front of the field. Meanwhile, they were all battling over second. Bit of a lock-up from Finn Harrison, who was on the outside, but a move and a bit of contact as well as a bit of a slide from McNeely, who was on the inside. This was the talking point in the first lap, though. A lot of curb being taken from Alicia Palmovsky, and it would break the suspension on the rear of the car, and she'd have to retire from the race, unfortunately. Big move down the inside as Templeton would try and get past Finn Harrison, would complete that move down at Redgate before continuing the battle down the hill. Marcus Lucio with a move up the order, going side by side, just a touch with Harry Burgoyne Jr. At the final turn of the circuit. Side by side down the hill once more between Templeton and Harrison, as it would be Harrison working his way past once they got down into the old hairpin. The battling would continue. Wilson now with a big send in the 27, opening up the door for Callum Baxter to sneak one straight through the inside, clearing both positions. The side-by-side was happening behind, but not for the race lead, as Lenus Granfors was able to take a very well-deserved fourth consecutive victory of the season. Absolutely incredible drive from Lenus Granfors. As you can see, Liam McNeely onto the podium with a third place finish, picking up yet another trophy. Of course, when he was racing here at the end of last year, McNeely did end up finishing on the podium in the first two races. He did win in the fourth race at Donington Park in the first time we came here last year. We actually did 7 races at Donington Park last year. As Brandon McCacken will take to second position and onto the top step of the podium, as I alluded to, for the fourth consecutive race. It is Granfors once more, your championship leader, and looking very, very, very strong in doing so. Just keeps ticking off the solid results, and even those 2 races beforehand where he didn't take victory, they were still pretty solid. Obviously, he finished in 7th position and 4th position before this streak of victories. And I know we've got that one cancelled race, but to be perfectly honest, considering how he can move his way, he scythes his way through the order, I wouldn't be surprised if Lenus Granfors can even maybe take a victory in the 3rd race of this weekend, and maybe even tick one off tomorrow morning as well. How long can this streak go on for, and how many times can we see him hold aloft that trophy in his hands? Of course, they'll all jump to the top step of the podium to grab themselves focus. I'd love to see Brandon McCacken more in this championship. He's doing such a good job, especially with the budget constraints and such. I'm sure that first victory is just around the corner, picking up his 2nd podium of the season. We'll take a look at provisional results, of course, from the race. Take a look at the provisional results from round 7 of the GB4 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. An excellent victory from Lenus Granfors. Brandon McCacken in 2nd position, just 6/10 off the race lead, and was really pressuring late on in that one. McNeely for Fox Motorsports and his return to the championship in 3rd position, with Marcus Lucio, again privateer, probably had a bit of a boring race to be honest. 4 seconds ahead, 4 seconds behind, but still 4th place for him. Harry Burgoyne Jr. in 5th position, feeling a lot of pressure, getting under pressure late in the race from Chloe Grant, who's in 6th position. Finn Harrison in 7th, with Callum Baxter in 8th. Wilson and Templeton rounding out the top 10 positions. Of course, they were embroiled quite a fight, including that move down into the Melbourne hairpin. Megan Bruce nearly was able to beat out her teammate in the Fox Motorsports camp, but still had to settle for 11th position, with Dan Hickey in 12th. Dean Areen from 15th position up to 13th. Jack Taylor in 14th position, and unfortunately the retirement for Alicia Palmovsky after taking far too much of the curb in the final sector going through the Fogarty S. A big shame, but fastest lap as well. You can see it at the bottom of your screen from McNeely. Got to say, those results very provisional. As the drama continues, including into the championship, where we can see here Lenus Granfors pulling out a 30-point lead on Harry Burgoyne Jr. Looking so strong. It was 14 points coming into this one, has extended that championship margin by a fair amount. Brandon McCacken in 3rd position, with Alicia Palmovsky in 4th. Brandon Templeton in 5th position in the championship, nearly passing a century of points, having to settle rather for 98, which is after a fairly disappointing race for him. I'm sure he was expecting to pass 100. Callum Baxter in 6th position, with Marcus Lucio in 7th, getting stronger and stronger as each race passes. Liam Wilson in 8th position, Chloe Grant in 9th, and Finn Harrison down in 10th. We'll head our way though back into the paddock area, because Piers Pryor is catching up with some of the other drivers.
Thanks, Lewis. Thanks for running us through the championship standings. And you just spoke about Callum Baxter, and we have Callum Baxter right here. Callum, that was pretty crazy race. There was a lot of overtaking up and down the field, and talk to us about how your race went from your perspective.
Yeah, my race was all right. I had a decent start. I think end of first lap, I was in the position that I started in. And then a couple laps in, I was having some good racing with Harrison, but made a little bit of contact, so I dropped back. And then after that, just had to work hard to get back where I started, and then just had to put in some good lap times. But yeah, it was a really fun race. I got to practice a lot of racecraft, so I enjoyed it.
It looked like it was good fun out there, and let's talk just about that little bit of contact. Obviously, Finn Harrison had a great start, moved up the field. Mistake at the Fogger CSs brought him into your battle, and then just a small touch at turn one. You know, what did you make of that?
Yeah, it was just close. We were just really tight going in, and unfortunately, it just made a little bit of contact, and he got the position. But I think that's all it was. It was just close racing.
Great, and it was good to see close racing like that. Callum, we'll go and let you decompress with the team, and we'll bring in your teammate, Maya Donarine. Maya, on paper, not a great race, but I think you'll be buoyed by the fact that, you know, we spoke with before that, you know, you're not used to the new tyres on this circuit. You're still gaining a lot of experience, but you were right on the back of the group ahead.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. We had a pretty good battle throughout the whole race. I think I could have had a better opening couple laps, and I mean, my pace was there, a little bit slower than them, but I think that if I put a couple laps together, I could have gotten by Hickey and I believe it was Bruce. But I mean, we're still learning and setting it up.
Absolutely, and we've still got 2 races to come tomorrow, potentially changeable conditions. Do you reckon if the conditions switch it up a little bit, there's an opportunity?
Yeah, I think in the morning it looks like it's supposed to rain a little bit. I'm kind of excited for that because I'm a little bit better in the rain than I am in the dry. But race 3 starting pole, so I just got to do what I can with that.
Yeah, and let's talk about that pole position. That's going to be it's a lot of pressure, but also a great opportunity for a good result for yourself. Are you looking forward to that, and what can you hope to get out of that race?
Yeah, well, I learned a lot at Alton Park from the first reverse grid. Unfortunately, we didn't do it at Silverstone, but I think going into race 3, I'm definitely going to have a calm and cool head, just focus on putting some good laps down and not looking in the mirrors.
Maya, well, we'll see how you get on with that. We'll let you go and cool off, as of course it's nice and hot out on circuit. And I'm going to grab a word with one more driver if we can, because Megan Bruce has very helpfully made her way over here. Great to have Megan and chat to us. Megan, I like the branded water bottle you've got going on there. Looks very snazzy. That was a good race. You had actually a really good battle with Brandon, your teammate. You must be pretty happy to have closed that gap, because I think the gap was a little bigger at Silverstone, but now you're right up there.
Yeah, I think the main thing was to work a bit more on race pace and getting up to speed like quicker from the first lap.
Yeah.
I think we've definitely done that, and I set my first lap of the weekend just then. So yeah, pace is improving, just got to keep working for a bit more.
Keep working indeed, and of course that's the whole point of GB4, is to build up. Of course you had experience in caterings before, first season in single seat slicks and wings, so still a lot to get used to. Where do you think those steps forwards have come from? I suppose you've got Liam McNeely along with you this weekend, and of course he was a front running driver last season. Has that helped you a lot?
Yeah, it's definitely helped, like setup wise. He can like test extra stuff and, you know, drive as well, but he's obviously got a lot of experience, and just working on like the smaller bits now on the technique is just helping get those extra gains.
And then looking ahead tomorrow, a good result today, and you know, encouraging. You're going to be moving up as the season progresses. We've spoken to the other about the changeable conditions, potentially a threat of rain. How does that play into your mind? Are you looking forward to that? Are you a bit apprehensive for that, or take it as it comes?
I think if it rains, then it rains. I'm looking forward to it if it does, because at media day I think we have better pace in the rain than the dry, and I've had a few more wet days here than dry, so yeah, maybe it will, and maybe we get a good result.
Rain dances in the Bruce camp tonight then. Megan, we'll let you go off and call off from the rest of the day. Good race from you there. We'll grab Chloe Grant, seeing as she's made her way over here. Just one quick word from Chloe. Chloe, great race. You were pushing Harry Burgoyne at the end of the race there. You must be happy with that.
Yeah, it was really good. I knew that I just kind of had to get through the field as quick as I can. I didn't have a good qualifying. We actually had a technical issue in qualifying, which really held me back. So yeah, I mean, in testing the past 2 days, I've been quite high up, so that was why I was quite disappointed and upset after quali. But I knew that I had the pace, so I just had to give it my all, and obviously managed to get to P6. And I was quicker than Harry, but of course, being with teammates, you just want to try and get there in a fair way, not be lunging your teammates and risking any crashes, because obviously the team's championship is at stake here. So yeah, it was a good race, and obviously more tomorrow, and hopefully I beat Harry tomorrow.
More tomorrow indeed. Thanks very much for coming to chat to us. Great to hear from some of the drivers. Just quickly bring in Max Marzorati. Max, pretty good start to the weekend. Hopefully looking forward to some more good racing tomorrow.
Yeah, I think great start. You know, lovely sun came out for the race. You know, I think just GB4 there, and brilliant race throughout the field. Really good. You know, the first lap extremely exciting. Shame for Pomowski there, with when she hit the curb, it seemed to have caused some kind of issue. But really great racing up and down the field, hard racing. Hopefully we get the same thing tomorrow, and really close between the top 2 as well. You know, Granfors did not run away with it today.
Absolutely not, and I'm looking forward to that battle developing as the weekend goes on. We were saying potentially Lenus could be running away with it, but with the Cack and also McNeely, and then with the changeable conditions tomorrow and McNeely's experience, we could be in for a treat tomorrow.
Definitely, I can't wait.
I can't wait indeed. And also, just a quick word on the drivers you've been working with. Of course, we spoke to both of them just then, pushing their way up, and it's great to see that a lot of the drivers who are new to the championship this season getting closer and closer to the front of the field.
Yeah, I think like watching that race for me as a coach, it was obviously great fun because they were both in battles all the way through it. Callum had a great race. He got a bit unlucky with what happened around him. Pomalski's move, it slowed him up, it broke him from the pack in front. And then with the contact with Harrison, it meant he lost momentum, lost a couple of places. But it showed how strong his head was. It'd have been very easy to just sit there, not make any more places up. But he got his head down, did an incredible 2 overtakes and 1 corner move, and to finish, come back through the field again.
Amazing. Well, Max, thank you very much for joining us once again, and thank you very much for joining us at home. We've got round 8 coming up and 9 as well tomorrow. But round 8 is coming up at about 9:30 tomorrow. So make sure you join us for that tomorrow morning. Thank you. Goodbye.